I am Quo, and am with this instrument at this time. We greet each in the love and the light of the one infinite Creator, which each here manifests in a unique way. And we are grateful to feel the presence with the Creator's love flowing through each heart. For this will help us speak more fully to the queries which you have to ask each instrument today. We thank you for taking the time out of your daily schedule to find the opening heart within yourself to share with others. When we respond to your queries, we hope that you will realize that we are giving you our opinion, and our opinion can be interpreted in whichever way you want to. You can accept it, you can dismiss it, but we give it freely. And we thank you for realizing that we are brothers and sisters that are perhaps further along the path of seeking as are you. At this time, we would ask if there is a query with which we may begin.
I have a query. When a seeker's physical body does not allow them to carry out the service that has been their sacred purpose for most of their life, for example, serving through art or music, how might this loss of physical ability be understood in the context of the seeker or wanderer's mission and spiritual growth?
I am Quo and am aware to query, my sister. You have asked the query that is fascinating to us. For your physical vehicles are those which you have chosen before this incarnation to carry you throughout your incarnation in a way that is most helpful to those about you. When you find that your physical body has suffered some kind of trauma that keeps you from being able to do what you've done before, then we would suggest that you, or anyone who has the same problem, look at what you're able to do now. Maybe this is moving another step along your spiritual path. Maybe you will find new abilities to be of service to others, to love them as you first love yourself, no matter what shape your physical body is in. Take that body with your heart. Use it as you can. Find another form of art. You are multi-talented. There is much from which you have to choose. The experience you've had with your body, somebody else might benefit by knowing it. Finding more songs that you can sing to your body to enhance its ability to move one more step along your spiritual journey. You are a lifelong seeker of truth. You have within you all the answers that you need, if you but go within to find that still small voice of the one who created all and ask that voice, what is the next step? How do I move forward? How may I serve better? Whatever the answer is, then within your whole heart, your mind, and your spirit, help your body to do what the one within has suggested to you. You are traveling a long journey in this incarnation, and it is one that has moved you many steps, and there are more steps for you to take. Seek within, move beyond your limitations in whatever way is possible for you. At this time, may we ask if you have a follow-up query, my sister?
I do, thank you, Quo. Can Quo speak to what the spiritual meaning or lessons of physical challenges of the heart might be? How might these physical challenges relate to the seeker's work in balancing love and wisdom through the energy centers?
I am Quo and am aware of the query, my sister. We appreciate the opportunity to further elaborate on this dynamic of how catalyst can manifest within one's energy system and within one's physical body when it is not able to be fully processed by the spirit and the mind complexes. Indeed, this is quite a common occurrence within your density, for it is quite rare that any individual makes full use of their catalyst. And even further, there are many types of catalysts that you, as wanderers and as seekers, have planned to experience. You have set up certain circumstances, you may say various triggers or fail-safes within your experience, so that if you find yourself upon a certain aspect of your journey in a certain configuration that is offering a particular lesson, there may be a manifestation of some kind of physical ailment or difficulty within the self that can help the self to reflect upon their journey and to reflect upon the nature of this catalyst, both emotionally and physically. These physical catalysts are an opportunity. They are your body complex offering communication to you for you to understand the nature of your own being. Oftentimes, as we believe you are aware, this communication can be of a symbolic in nature. We are happy to elaborate some upon what types of catalysts may manifest in the ways that you have said in the aspect of affecting your physical heart. But before we elaborate, we would offer a disclaimer, you may say, in that each individual is totally unique in their energetic configuration. Each individual has planned a totally unique journey upon this third density plane. And so our advice can be seen more to help illuminate the possibilities of what is possible to be explored as you meditate upon this catalyst, rather than address a specific cause, you may say. And in order to explore this, we would point out the nature of the heart and its relationship to the green ray energy center. That energy center, as you are aware, is of love and understanding, of compassion and empathy and acceptance. These are qualities of the green ray energy center. And in addressing the type of catalyst that you have described, we would offer the perspective that energy centers can be distorted not only in that they can be blocked, but they can also be overactive. And when an entity may find themselves in a certain configuration in their life wherein they have doubled down, you may say, on the attempt to offer love and compassion, and attempted to emphasize the nature of love and the expression of love in their life to the expense of other aspects of their being, to the expense of balancing the other energy centers of their being. This attempt can cause what we would identify as an overactivation of the heart energy center. And this imbalance, then if it goes on for long enough, can then manifest as a physical symptom, as an attempt from the body to reflect to the self that there is an imbalance happening within the energy system. This is one possible reason for an entity to experience the symptoms affecting the physical human heart. Another possibility could be that indeed there is some blockage to this energy center that persists for long enough that it is necessary for the body to interject in the life path of the individual in order to prompt the entity to reflect upon the nature of love and the nature of the heart and how it may have been closed to those about them or how it may have been closed to the self. In this scenario, it is fruitful for the seeker to go inside in meditation and attempt to identify where it is that the heart has been closed, where it is that the heart finds difficulty manifesting love, where there are distortions in the perceptions of your other selves about you in those other selves that may be difficult, you may say, to love, and then to reflect upon the nature of the unity of the creation about you, and the unity between yourself and your other self, and how this reflection that your other self is offering you is catalyst in itself. This is an attempt to offer you the perspective of your own being, of what aspects of yourself you are ignoring or rejecting, or are avoiding your attempts to love yourself. These are two possibilities for why one may experience the symptoms of the energetic and physical heart energy center. There are other possibilities, particularly those that we have identified as the pre-incarnative aspect of the journey. If an entity has found itself at a certain point in its life where its focus has been on the heart center, and there is a new lesson to be learned, then the heart and the physical body may reflect this new story in an attempt to turn the page. You may say, in an attempt to allow the entity to reflect more upon what else is available to it. What other lessons are being offered to the entity that are not seen because of the previous focus? This is a natural progression, you may say, for any entity within the third density. For as you know, such a life goes in chapters, and once one chapter closes, a new one may begin. And in such a situation, if an entity finds itself resonating with the idea of a pre-incarnatively planned physical ailment, then understanding the nature of this progression and looking both inward and outward for hints and signs of what the next chapter may be in the journey of the seeker is a fruitful meditation. Is there another follow-up to this query, my sister?
No. Thank you so much, Quo.
I am Quo, and we thank you, my sister. Is there another query at this time to which we may respond?
Yes, Quo. I have another question in a series of questions about the concept of a social memory complex. In 16.32 of the Raw Contact, Ra says each member of the Confederation of Planets voluntarily places its social memory complex data in a social thought complex available to all. Can you say more about the central data repository and what it contains? Does it include the entirety of each member's memories? For instance, does it include their skills gardening or carpentry or drag racing or whatever? Or is it something more abstract? Thank you.
I am Quo and am aware of the query, my brother. We enjoy speaking to this query, for it allows us to elaborate on our own beingness and reflect to you what awaits your planet and your so-called human race as you progress into the fourth density and find yourself forming your own social memory complex. And we hope, joining us of the Confederation in our own journey in service of the one infinite Creator. This repository of memories is both, as you have framed it, abstract and quite practical. For when a social memory complex dedicates itself fully to service to the one infinite Creator and the expression that we experience of service to others, the unity of this decision is so full and so single-pointed that placing the entirety of one's beingness, all of the lessons that one has learned, and all that one has accumulated through one's experience into such a repository, you may say, is a natural and easy choice to make. For when a group of social memory complexes operating in unity comes together and discovers a shared goal, as we of the Confederation have done, the desire to help each other in any way possible resounds within the social memory complexes and allows for a sort of metasocial memory complex to form. Although there are meaningful differences between the unity among the Confederation and the unity found within a social memory complex, this repository contains anything that any member of the Confederation could desire to discover to learn. There are lessons taught among the densities and between the densities within the Confederation. But for those entities and social memory complexes of the Confederation who travel outward and attempt to serve planets, particularly those planets of the third density, they may easily call upon this repository for any type of information that might be helpful to them. Of course, this takes a certain aspect of will on the social memory complex's part to access it, and there is an exchange as they receive it. They also offer it their own experiences, and the needs of that social memory complex will dictate what is available to them in that moment. For it would be unnatural for a social memory complex to play or be curious, you may say, with such a repository. For as you enter into the fourth density and continue progressing along that path, the desire to serve others becomes so great that satisfying one's curiosity is no longer a question, but rather the need to further the service to others is the most pressing need of a fourth density social memory complex, and most fifth density and sixth density social memory complexes as well. And thus, any need that arises in their attempt to serve others is available in that repository. However, there are limits, of course, for it is in this service to others that we ourselves, as social memory complexes of the Confederation, learn. There must be opportunities for catalyst, and our main catalyst is in interacting with planets such as yours and attempting to serve, and finding what distortions may result from that attempt, and continuing again and again in our attempt to serve, to rectify any distortions and to come further and further into unity with those we are serving and the one infinite Creator. Is there a follow-up to this query, my brother?
Is telepathy needed to share memories and experiences in a social memory complex? Or can it be done verbally or through electronic means, such as our internet?
I am Quo and am aware of the query, my brother. This is an interesting query, for there is not a single answer, necessarily. And it requires us to ask you, and any who become aware of our words, to release the rather strict and confused understanding of what your peoples have called telepathy. For this is, in your perception, a type of communication that you have related somewhat similar to your normal mode of communication, that being speech. Whereas once a social memory complex reaches a point of being a social memory complex, the communication that happens is not so linear and is more responsive, you may say, to the moment and the needs of the entity in that moment. And so, it is true that you could call this access to memories a type of telepathy. However, it is much more natural, you may say. from your perspective within the third density. Telepathy is not a common experience and is something that can be developed and worked upon. But in an environment where it is natural, it is not noteworthy. It is simple beingness of the social memory complex. Just as your body may experience some sort of communication within itself, it needs food and thus it signals to itself hunger. So too does a social memory respond to its needs naturally, without the need to focus, as you would need to with your own experiences of telepathy. We hope that this odd response has made some sense, for it is difficult to describe the conditions of fourth density and a social memory complex in the perspective that would make sense to a third density entity blessed by the veil of forgetting. Is there another follow-up to this query, my brother?
Not right now. Thank you, Quo.
I am Quo, and we thank you, my brother. We are Quo, and would ask if there is a query to which we may respond.
I have a query related to the previous answer about telepathy and thought and will. And oftentimes we perceive thoughts as maybe we create them. They come from within. Sometimes it seems as if we discover them from elsewhere or from outside. I'm assuming both are true, or that both can exist together. And then also when one uses will to direct their thought. Can we look at this as a microcosm of the first thought of the focusing of love into a moment as the creative principle? And if there are any ways we may think about thought, and will that may be helpful to us in our third density experience that we don't see initially when we just define these terms and look at them on their own? Any way you might be able to speak with to those concepts in that regard?
We are those of Quo and find that these questions mine to the depths of the nature of reality itself and are of those energies which set the creation into motion. Those being that of focus, that of will, that of concept and thought. These aspects of the manifest one are bound up intricately in various ways. They are fundamental portions of your own incarnate experience as the third density, being which has graduated thanks to the more rudimentary experience of thought from the second density, that their circumference of awareness expands to include a sense of differentiation, of individuality, of being seemingly distinct and separate from one's surrounding environment and one's other selves, and finding in that separation the personal and interior experience of thought. Indeed, we would suggest to the seeker reflecting on the nature of thought that the journey is largely and primarily one of thought and thought forms in the dynamic relationship between the perception of self and the awareness of self and the thoughts which exist within what seem to be the confines of one's being. These thoughts which you experience are of a nature that can be both, as you surmise, generated from within and existing independent of the self. A thought is an entity of its own right. It is a manifest, limited, finite aspect of the Creator in its myriad manyness. The thought forms may be shared by various nested layers of collectives, from small groups to those identified with a national boundary, to a planet as a whole may share a thought form or a set or complex of thought forms. And these take on an energy and a point in time-space, you may say, that is unique to them and independent of those who participate reciprocally in this thought, feeding this thought and being fed by it, as thoughts contain story and narrative and identity and meaning and so forth. A thought may be attracted to the self by the self's vibratory rate, by their unique pattern of blockage and activation and balance. And a thought may fall away from the self as the self continues upon their upward spiraling evolution in the journey of coming to know the self and accept the self and ultimately transcend the illusory notion of the individual self. Thoughts dance in and out of one's field of awareness. Thoughts may stay for quite some time or visit for a short time as the self studies and contemplates the nature of these thought forms and complexes of thoughts. One may come to see how thought permeates virtually the entirety of manifest creation, that the fabric of the creation itself is that of thought of various states and vibrations, coalescing into complex forms like a mind-body-spirit complex, like a planetary being. And the further one moves upon their journey, They may see that the self is not one's thoughts, but is instead that awareness which experiences one's thoughts. And as that awareness deepens and expands such that the underlying unity of creation is begun to be perceived, one can begin to access that reality, where the self, the individual self itself, is perceived to be a thought within the mind of the Creator itself. That the individual self is a thought which the Creator is having. This entity that you are, and your entire biographical and multi-incarnational journey, your joys and your sorrows, your gifts and your limitations, is a manifested thought of the Creator. A certain path which the Creator wished to explore. A way for the Creator, shall we say, to think, to explore, to experience, as you interact with myriad countless other selves, doing very much the same at various levels. Whether that be the wind and earth of the first density, or the beings of your inner planes, or that light which greets you from beyond your dimension. This deepening awareness of the nature of thought is indeed facilitated by the entity's increasing ability to invoke, harness, and direct that power source within which is, as you have identified it, the will. Without conscious application of the will, the entity will be used by the conditioned patterns of the self, by the expectations of society, by the cultural norms which the self has absorbed and internalized and/or which have been imposed upon the self. And at the unconscious level, this will be given away to sources outside the self, including and particularly those who would seek to commend the self, those of your friends of the negative polarity, those who would wish you to be unawakened to the sovereign power inherent within your being. But through the process of spiritual awakening, the self becomes aware of this conduit to the Creator, this ability to direct the journey to the One, which is most powerfully manifested not necessarily by reordering the life or reordering the universe, but by applying the attention and focus to the catalyst of one's life. By, instead of being unconsciously pushed and pulled and torn and subsumed by the catalytic patterns of one life, bringing one's attention to the catalyst that it may be known and loved and accepted. This takes conscious and repeated and sustained use of the will over time, and it takes its twin, shall we say, aspect of faith, which informs the self that that which the will is being applied is worthwhile, and will bear fruit, and has greater purpose when all seems lost, or when the skies are darkened, and when the self is in the throes of suffering, or when the world seems to reflect back to the self the quixotic or foolish nature of the journey, to seek the one in a world which does not generally recognize the divinity of the self and the divinity of all things and the unity from which all springs. And this will can be applied to examining one's thoughts. This will can be applied to resting in stillness and silence that the thoughts which associate with one may be seen, may be loved, and may be disidentified with, divested from selfhood, such that the self understands it is that which experiences thought. And finally, we would attempt to speak to the second primal distortion, as you have named it, which for the application of this question may be seen as something of a prerequisite to the creative act of conceiving and building and manifesting, and that is this capacity for focus. Your incarnations in their long arc through this and densities beyond is a continual focusing and refining of the focus, and finding that which is at the heart of the desires of the self, and bringing the focus into alignment upon that journey. Just as you are a focus of the Creator, so too do you as co-creator, as a logoic being share this ground-level, fundamental aspect of what it is to exist, what it is to be a manifest being of the One. And that is your ability to focus. Where you focus, upon what you turn your attention, is generally the reality you create for yourselves. It is as that saying known to you goes, where this instrument is stumbling upon this saying, but which sounds something like where the attention goes, this will have to be clarified in a footnote subsequent to the manifestation of this transcription point 3. One of your principal works as an entity seeking the One is to become conscious of your already operating ability to focus, to bring your various, distracted, and myriad focuses into alignment that, in unity, You may be a mind-body-spirit complex, one-pointed in their seeking of the One, in their service to others, in their surrender to the One, that the self may, in this intense, sustained, and stable focus, be an instrument of the One, that the Creator may make music through the self, whatever the self's gifts and limitations, that this intense discipline of the personality may become so crystallized that it is effortless and spontaneous and of the moment without pretense. We are Quo and would ask if there is a follow-up to this query?
No, thank you very much, Quo.
And we thank you, our brother. We would ask if there is another question from this circle? We are Quo.
I have a question about guides, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that we each walk with some guides that follow us. I wonder if these guides are the same through each incarnation, or do they vary? And I wonder if, when we transition to the next level and/or the next density, do those same guides walk with us, or do we have new guides?
We are those of Quo, and thank you for this question, our sister. You may find analog to the insight which you seek on this question by considering the movement of your own social experience. During your journey from infancy to maturity, and over the course of your incarnations, past and to come, there are those in concentric orbits of association, including your core soul group with whom you will weave in and out of incarnation after incarnation, learning together, catalyzing each other, dancing in various roles of harmony and disharmony, of responsibility and power, and so forth. And outward those groupings move with overlap between various groupings according to the needs of your evolutionary state. You will attract or be attracted by new soulmates and old soulmates according to their vibratory state and their needs of learning. And shall we say, the speed of their acceleration or deceleration upon their own journey will move them away, shall we say, from less close association. So too, on the inner planes are there these mechanisms and bands of need and attraction that bring to you a guide which may have limited purpose and time for your life. Perhaps they are there to help with one specific catalyst or a need or lesson. Alongside of you are also those guides who are with you, as you may say, for the long haul. Those who walk with you, arm in arm, and know the fullness of your being and the burdens you have carried, the sorrows you have suffered, the triumphs and joys that have been yours, and who have a greater grasp of the intricacies of your own web of connections with other souls and the ever-living, shifting dynamics of interrelationship. Guides, in short, may come and go as people may come and go in the space-time manifest experience. Some core teachers staying for the entirety of your journey, some for limited purpose. And depending upon the need of the entity and the nature of the guide, they may indeed cross boundaries of densities, or shall we say, be available to you upon another density. But also, as you take that quantum leap forward into a new band of reality and experience, new hosts of those seeking to be of service will also be available to you. For the universe is brimming with those seeking to be of help, those with their ears to the railroad, we may say, listening for that vibration of the call of service. Those magnetized to the needs of the entity, be that articulated vocally with intention and prayer, or by the vibratory state of their suffering and seeking. And we may close by adding that you too, even in your space-time form, are part of this nature as you are guides to one another. May we ask if there is a further query, our sister?
No, thank you. It's much appreciated.
And we thank you. We are those known to you as the principle of Quo. We would ask if there is a final query at this time.
Quo, we have one sent in from a seeker named E, who writes, I am aware that dreams are fertile ground for growth and work in consciousness, but I struggle to know what I am to learn or gain from them. I feel any of my guesses are just that, wild guesses. Occasionally things are obvious and profound enough that I think I get it, but the vast majority, I just recall in the storyline and events and feelings and so on, and go on with my day. I feel I'm missing a lot of learning, and that everything just goes over my head. Maybe I need to put in more effort to find repeating elements. Maybe I need to spend more time in meditation, pondering, how can I use dreams more effectively for spiritual growth?
I am Quo, and am aware of the query, my brother. The concept of dreams is that which we feel each has some grasp of. For the dreaming is usually a kind of message from your subconscious mind or your guides that suggests you move in a certain direction. If you can perceive that you have alerted the subconscious mind that you want to work with your dreams, you must be in harmony with your subconscious mind, so that the dreams become more available in a way that shows you some part of you in a way that repeats. If you would keep a dream journal so that you record your dreams as soon as you have them, then later look at that journal and use your intuition or meditation or contemplation to find the images that are moving through your life pattern at that time. Your subconscious mind is aware of your pre-incarnative choices and will bias your perception of your dreams in the way you have pre-incarnatively chosen to learn certain lessons, if you can keep that contact with your subconscious mind continuous. This is a process that will reveal to you why you are here, what you were meant to learn, those other entities within your life pattern who play a role in what you are here to learn. This process of working with dreams is a process of living a dream within the dream of third density and making progress in understanding how you are a many-faceted jewel that will be coming back to meet yourself in greater and greater forms, in feelings, in thought, in any way that you can understand more of how you are the dream. At this time, we would thank each of the seekers of truth within this circle for sharing your love, your light, your desire to know more of yourself through your questions or questions that have been asked by others. For each of you is the Creator, which is learning more about itself through every experience you have, every dream you have, every thought you have, every emotion that you have. And this is how we all learn more about ourselves, about the Creator and the infinite creation in which we all live and move and have our being. At this time, we would take our leave of this group and this instrument, thanking you once again for your beingness of love. We are those of Quo, Adonai Vasu Baragas.